We're going on to Unit 1, Lesson 10. Getting towards the end of the chapter. In fact, we only have one more section, so it'll be time for a test. We're going to practice translating English words into math sentences, so we can take word problems and turn them into math equations. There will be many instances when we have to translate phrases from English into mathematical expressions. Basically, that's what engineers do. I want to build a bridge. Okay, so now we have to turn that phrase, I want to build a bridge, into a bunch of mathematical expressions, which will get us a bridge. So let's start off with the basics. Let's not just go build the new Tappan Zee bridge. So what does it mean to add? Words that mean add. Well, one big word is sum. Sum means to add. Total means to add. Like you total up a bill when you go to a restaurant. More means to add. Tomorrow in class, we'll see if anybody can add more words to these. How about words that mean to subtract? Well, one word that comes to mind that's very common is the word difference. Less. How about words that mean to multiply? Well, the first one most people say is times. But the word we're really going to see is product. Another word is per. But per is a little tricky because per can also show up in the dividing sense. So that one we're going to have to really read closely. Quotient means to divide. And the baby word, which I don't like anymore, is gesintu. Gesundheit is what I want to say every time somebody says, how many times does 4 go into? I just thought of another one for multiply. Factor. All right, so tomorrow in class, we'll see if you can think of some more words, and we'll add to this list. So let's see what we're exactly talking about. Write a calculation. Oh, that's fancy for write in terms of math. So this is how I do a word problem. As I understand something, I cross it off. Okay, understand, write a calculation, and a result. I'm not worried. I don't understand that. That represents a number that is 5 greater than 3. Oh, okay. So I just want to translate all this into math. Well, first of all, a number. Do we know what that number is? No, so that represents by x. And this number is fancy equals 5. All right, I did number. I did 5. Greater than, hey, that didn't show up on my list. What is greater than? Oh, that's like more. So we'll put greater on the add side. 3. X is a number that is 5 greater than 3. So there I wrote the calculation. Oh, I guess this is what they mean by the result. X must be 8. Okay, let's look at the next one. First thing we should notice is that it doesn't say write a calculation. It just says n represents a number. So sometimes I like to say n equals any number. And I write it down here just so I can remind myself. Okay, Now what do they want me to do? Write an expression. Okay, when they say expression, there's no equal sign. That represents a number that is 5 less than n. Okay, well, if n is a number, how do I represent something that's 5 less than n? Oh, there's that word less, which means subtract. So I'm going to start with my number n, and I'm going to subtract 5. And there we go. That's my answer. That's an expression that shows me 5 less than n. Number 3, if n represents a number. So once again, I'm going to write down here n equals any number. Now, what do they want me to do with this wonderful fact? Write an expression, okay, so no equal sign, that represents a number that is n less than 5. So that means, in this case, I'm starting off with the number 5, and I'm subtracting n from it. Now that's a tricky one. Everybody wants to go n minus 5 because they see less than. But you have to read very carefully and decide who's coming first. The word than generally flips it around. You see how this ended up being n in the front and 5 in the back? And then, so 5 in the front, n in the back? It's a tricky one. We're going to look at it a lot. Write a calculation. Okay, now I'm going to need an equal sign. It didn't say expression, it said calculation. And a result, well, there's the thing. I want some calculation over here that results in an answer over here. Represents the sum. Okay, so I'm going to put a plus sign down here because sum means to add. Well, what am I adding together? -3 and 8. And they didn't want me to write necessarily the answer. So I could have written -3 plus 8 equals x. I could have written even this, -3 plus 8 equals 5. That's a calculation. They didn't tell me I had to use a variable here. So either one of these is correct. All right, if x represents a number, okay, x equals a number. Write an expression, okay, no equal signs, that represents a number 10 greater than x. Well, greater means to add. So I'm going to take my x and I'm going to add 10 onto it. There's my expression that represents a number that's 10 greater than x. If n represents a number, all right, here's my n representing any number. Write an expression, awesome, no equal sign, that represents, okay, here we go. Read carefully. The difference. Difference means to subtract. So I am subtracting two things. Something here, and then obviously something in the front. So what am I subtracting? A number 1 larger than n. Well, here's my n, and if I want to be 1 larger than it, I'm going to do +1. I'm going to put it in parentheses because it's a binomial. And, oh, that's the signal to move to the second box. It's telling me now this is what's going to be in the second box. 1 smaller than n. Well, here's n, and if I go smaller, I must be subtracting, and I'm only subtracting 1. So there's my expression. I am subtracting these two numbers. All right, last one. If y represents a number, see, I just figured I'd change it up. You can use any letter you want as a variable. Okay, y represents a number. write an expression. Great, no equal signs. That represents, here we go, here's the meat of it, the sum. Okay, sum means I'm adding. So again, I'm adding two numbers. There's my two numbers. I don't know what goes in these boxes. Let's figure it out. What am I adding? The sum of y. Okay, here's y. And that means to jump to the other box, a number 1 greater than y. Y plus 1. All right, so we've got a couple more of them to do in class. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.